talk, talk. That will never free the slaves. What is needed is action. Action!
The abolitionist movement of the 1850s was filled with editors and orators who spoke out passionately against slavery at every opportunity. But John Brown believed action spoke louder than words, and following no one's conscience but his own, he took actions that would eventually eclipse all the words of all the abolitionists in America.
Without shedding of blood, there is no remission of sin.
For many years, John Brown had been developing a plan he believed would destroy slavery once and for all. Brown would invade the South and, by arming the slaves, ignite a rebellion.
After raising money and gathering some men to join him in 1859, John Brown goes to Maryland, sets up a campsite, and in October of 1859, he and 19 other men seize the United States arsenal at Harper's Ferry. And their plan is the slaves will come to them, and then they will go off into the mountains and fight the guerrilla war. Slaves don't come to them, in part because the slaves don't know that he's there, in part because the slaves aren't stupid. They can see that John Brown is totally outnumbered. John Brown manages to get himself surrounded. He lets a train go through Harper's Ferry. Harper's Ferry is a major railroad stop, and so the train goes through and informs people that they're under attack. And eventually, the United States Marines show up under the command of an Army Colonel, Robert E. Lee, who will later, of course, become a Confederate general.
When Brown refused to surrender, the troops stormed the engine house.
Brown is captured. He's tried. The trial is something of a sham. Brown is suffering from wounds that he received during the battle. He asks for a delay of a couple of days so his lawyer from Ohio can arrive, and the judge refuses to delay the trial.
Weakened by his wounds, Brown appeared in court every day on a cot. Knowing the conclusion was foregone, he listened but said little. John Brown was sentenced to death by hanging.
In the month between the time he's convicted and the time he's hanged, Brown writes hundreds of letters across the country and essentially creates himself into an almost Christ-like martyr for northern opponents of slavery.
I've been whipped, but I am sure I can recover all the lost capital occasioned by that disaster by only hanging a few moments by the neck. And I feel quite determined to make the utmost out of a defeat.
John Brown was hanged on December 2nd, 1859. Across the North, meetings, prayer vigils, and church services were held to observe his death. These public displays of mourning outraged the South.
The North has sanctioned and applauded theft, murder, treason.
The South believes its own propaganda about John Brown. Southerners say all Northerners are like John Brown. In other words, they create John Brown to be, in their mind, the personification of the North. He's not. He's about as far out on the fringe as you could possibly get. But Southerners believe in their own minds that Brown is really the North. They refer to the John Brown Republicans.
Threatened Southerners joined military companies, and Southern states appropriated funds to purchase arms. Yankees were tarred and feathered or run out of town on a rail. A few were lynched. The support for secession reached a critical mass. On his way to the gallows, John Brown handed a final note to his jailer.
I, John Brown, am now quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away, but with blood.